everybody. It's Romania Black. And we are on the 2023 to 2024 Waifu and Husbando bracket. Yes, sirree, Bob. And I'm treating myself because we started these nominations back in November and have been doing brackets and polls all winter long for the third annual Husbando and Waifu bracket championships. So basically narrowing down our top 64 Husbando and Waifu candidates that were voted by patrons on Patreon for my channel based on the shows and manga that I have read and watched so far. So of course, if there are series with Husbandos and Waifus that I haven't seen yet, I sadly won't be able to include them on this year's bracket. However, the ones that are up this year for candidacy are pretty top notch. So I'm treating myself and we're going to go through the top 64 and narrowing it down. We're cutting in half this round. We're slicing down the competition from the top 64 nominated to start out with down to the top 32. So I hope y'all are ready. Cheers. This is going to be needed. This entire video is just going to be me with whipped cream on me. So I hope that you're happy about that. Oh, so let's get down to it, shall we? So here's the deal. The last 2 years on the bracket, I have personally picked the winners of each bracket category as they came up. Everybody on Patreon nominated the nominations, all the Husbandos, all the Waifus, and I would go through each and every category, each and every bracket, and pick out the winners and narrow it down, which was, granted, a lot of fun, but very nerve-wracking and stressful. So I thought this year, why am I making it more stressful on myself? Why don't I just let Patreon decide who the winners are? Because you all are of sound mind and would not pick, winners that weren't due that earned win. I don't have any alcohol in this glass in this round. That is very likely to change as we go through this bracket. Because, I told the moderators in this first round of 64 to 32, I said, okay, if there's any tomfoolery and things that cannot be justified, then I may have a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire style, 3 special exceptions that I'll make throughout the bracket. But if we can make it through this first round and there not be shenanigans, then I'll just let Patreon do it and we'll go from there. And they were like, that sounds great. And so that's what I ended up doing. No take backsies. So this very first round is about loyalty. Let's dive into the top 64 nominated Husbandos from Patreon and see what y'all voted for. So with our top 64 Husbandos, what I did was kind of do like American basketball does. When you have 64 nominations, you start out your seeding where you put your number 1 seed in 4 corners, your 4 top seeds in each corner, north, west, east, and south. And then you take the lowest seed, like the one that was least nominated, and you pair it up against that number 1. And you did the 2 and 3 seeds. I think it's 4 and 6 or 4 and 5. You just go throughout it. And that way you kind of end up a little bit more balanced throughout the bracket, right? So that you're not putting together your heavy hitters first off the bat. Like we wouldn't want Nanami and Lanwanji right off the bat, right? That'd be crazy. So anyway, we started out this bracket with the very first number 1 seed, who has been the number 1 seed for the last, 3 years now, which is Lanwanji from Modao Zushi versus Yuta from Jujutsu Kaisen, who is new on the poll, probably thanks to season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen coming out this previous year. But this was very interesting because the category is loyalty. And honestly, both Yuta and Lanwanji are very loyal. They're loyal characters, especially to people they care about. I would argue, and again, we're going to be getting into I'm going to try to keep this as limited on spoilers for this first round because it's just about loyalty. So just going to keep it very limited to spoilers. So just be hesitant. If it's a character that's kind of a spoiler for that series, I will definitely let you all know ahead of time before we start talking about the round. But I will say this, knowing full and well Modao Zushi's entire series versus just season 1 and season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, I can definitely agree that Lanwanji, I think, had an edge over Yuta in terms of loyalty just because of the content that is available to Lanwanji and not Yuta yet. So for that reason, I definitely understand Patreon voting. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be, though. But Lanwanji with 57% of the vote versus Yuta's 42%. definitely edged out to win this round, but it was a lot closer than I thought it would be, and makes sense, right? So Lan Wangji is going to go on to win this round, the first of our bracket. Next we have, I'm so happy that I've watched Trigun this last year, because I feel like we had a lot of really good contenders from Trigun like come into this. This next round is going to be old Nicholas Wolfwood versus Nijimura from Kuroko's Basketball. Kuroko's Basketball and our sports anime got a lot of great representation, which I was really, really happy about. So I'm glad that happened. But this one, look, I'm going to tell y'all right now, the sports anime love, it is there, but it's going to be a hard row to hoe for them. I mean, Nicholas Wolfwood being a loyal character, a loyal dog. Again, we're not going to get into crazy spoilers this first round, but I definitely agreed that based on the content that we have available to us, it made sense why Wolfwood had 65% of the vote and Nijimura had 34%. But still, again, a lot of these opening early on brackets were either a lot closer than I thought or they were shutouts. So we'll talk more about that, but I thought that was really good. So yeah, Nicholas Wolfwood, he advances on to the top 32. Then we had Aki Hayakawa, who is from Chainsaw Man, which I was really happy to see him on the Husbando nominations. You're going to find that a lot of these nominations for the Husbando bracket were not who I thought that we would get, especially when we had series that only had a few recommendations or a few nominations. Like, of all the Husbandos, Aki's like the only one from Chainsaw Man. I was like, no Denji, no Pachita. I was like, what? We'll talk more about the waifus, but for the Husbandos, Aki was the one, and I was like, okay, let's do it then, shall we? But it's Aki versus Moran from Moriarty the Patriot, which was a pretty good matchup, right? I thought that was a really nice matchup, but I mean, Aki definitely eased ahead with 66% of the vote over Moran's 33%, which, you know, no spoilers, Moran's kind of portrayed as a womanizer from the first time you meet him, so that could have had something to do with it, right? Could have had something to do with it, but Aki advances on to the top 32. Now, I will say for this next round, this next person that I'm going to talk about is in fact a spoiler for Heaven Official's Blessing. So if you do not want to be spoiled on Heaven Official's Blessing, this is a character that has not been mentioned in the Donghua yet. You might skip over this round and just go on to the next round and skip this one if you don't want to be spoiled for Heaven Official's Blessing. If you don't care, here we go. So the next round is going to be Ryoji Kaji from Neon Genesis Evangelion versus the character Yin Yu from Heaven Official's Blessing. Man, Kaji, I thought you were a pretty loyal guy. I mean, you had your moments. You were kind of maybe a double agent, and maybe we couldn't trust you all the way, but the Heaven Official's Blessing fans came out in full force, and they just trumped over Kaji, which is kind of funny because this was one of the rounds I kind of thought about for a little bit because, yeah, Yin Yu being loyal as a character, sure. But I almost put Kaji and Yin Yu on equal footing because Yin Yu, it's like his loyalty, I'm like, he denies it a lot. But then here's the thing. Both Kaji and Yin Yu, they don't come across as being loyal based on what they say, but then their actions kind of show them to be somewhat more loyal than what they're letting on. So that's why I personally thought it was a lot closer than everyone else voted it to be. But my thing is, too, that Kaji, in the end, there are a few moments where Kaji makes some questionable decisions with the plot that you're like, is he loyal? I don't know. Whereas Yin Yu, his loyalty is really questionable with one person, but then you quickly realize after he does a series of things that, oh no, he really likes that one person. It's just kind of a facade. So y'all saw through it and you voted correctly, I guess. And so Yin Yu advances on to the top 32. Next, so happy to see Buddy Daddies represented on this channel and on this Husbando bracket. Ever since watching Buddy Daddies last year, I was hoping that Rei and Kazuki would make it onto the bracket, and they did. I'm so excited. So yes, this round next, we have Rei Suwa from Buddy Daddies versus, who we got here? Sawamura Eijun. I was like, this is why this bracket can be so so just absolutely heartbreaking because I love Salomar Ajoun with all of my heart. He's like one of my favorite sports protagonists. But I love Ray with all my heart too as one of my favorite daddy protagonists. And so this one was really hard because I'm like, ugh. Do I think Salomar is loyal? God, yes. He's so loyal to his team. You know, he would like give you the shirt off his back. He would never cheat on a partner. You just know that about him. And I was like, could I really, if it were up to me, could I vote against Ray? Well, 70% of you said no. So this was like not even close. It was 70% Ray, 29% Salomar. The only justification I can give is that Ray is an adult in Buddy Daddies, and there's various other things that he does as a character that I won't spoil for you all. And Salomar is still in his teenage years. So I was like, okay, Ray has done some things as an adult that would lead you to think he was a loyal partner, but Salomar has done those things too as a teenage boy. And you know how stupid teenage boys are. So if he's that loyal now, this was the first round that I went, oh, this is going to suck. Not being able to pick the winner, you all picking the winner. This is going to be one of those moments I'm like, okay, here we go. But Ray advances on to the top 32. Next, we have Tenma Kenzo from Monster versus Chirong from Beneficial Blessing. And you know what? You would be surprised how many votes Chirong got. He got a lot of votes to get on this nomination poll. I was like, really? And no, he got a lot of nominations. So good for Chirong. Good for our Trash King making it here. But Tenma, I mean, as far as being loyal, you could make some arguments for Chirong. I'll give you that. You could. But I think overall, if we're talking about someone that would literally go the mile for you and go the distance and give you the shirt off their back, be loyal, be behind you no matter what, once they've decided that's the way to go, it's hard to beat Tenma. So 63% to 39% going to Tenma from Monster advancing. But I'm glad Chirong made the bracket. I was very pleased by that. I thought that was great to get some representation from our Trash King. Good on you, sir. Next up, we have Dazai versus Suwon from Yona the Dawn and from Yona the Dawn and then from Bungo Stray Dogs. This one was very tricky. I was very curious how this round would go because as far as loyalty goes, I mean, Suwon and Dazai, attractive, handsome men, both funny in their own ways. But as far as loyalty, you could really go either way with either of them. I mean, I think in the end, from what we've seen of Dazai and Bungo Stray Dogs, he definitely, once he decides that he's going to stick by your side and defend you, it's pretty definitive, and he's going to do whatever he can to do that. Whereas Suwon's motives in Yona the Dawn are a lot more mysterious and kind of questionable. Here's the thing. I feel like with Suwon, it depends more on if saving you or helping you or being loyal to you is going to benefit him in the long run. And with Dazai can kind of be chaotic and be like, no, I'm going to be loyal to you because I want to be, and without an agenda, right? So I think for me, it makes sense that Dazai squeaks out 58% to 41%, but it was really a lot closer than I thought, and a round that I definitely feel could have gone either way, and I would not have complained about it. I'd been like, nope, I understand it either way, but Patreon voted, and they've sent Dazai to the top 32. So then we have a very weird matchup, and that is Levi Ackerman. Glad Levi made it onto the Husbando bracket. Levi Ackerman versus Chong Shoshi from Link Click, which so happy that Link Click got some good representation on this bracket. Really glad that y'all have not forgotten about Link Click. You're remembering Link Click and including them. It's an amazing show. I was so happy to see the characters on here that are on here. But yeah, Chang versus Levi, you know what? This one's really hard too. Because you could argue, oh, Chang's super loyal. You see it in Link Click, how loyal he is, how dedicated he is to his friends. And Levi, I think sometimes people might think he's not as loyal because of how he comes across on the outside. But if you've watched the entirety of Attack on Titan, like I finally have, then you will know that Levi is insanely loyal. Like to the point where if you tell him to keep a promise, he's going to do whatever he can to keep that damn promise, no matter where it takes him and how long it takes. So I think because Levi has shown through a longer amount of time and with more content that he's gone the distance, it did edge him out over Chang. But it was pretty close, 57 to 43%. It was a pretty close bet. So cool for Levi. I feel bad for Chang not advancing, but glad Levi made it into the top 32. Now, our other number 1 seed from over on the east side, my man, Nanami Kento. Nanami Kento, my dude. So excited. And he gets to face up against a character that's very interesting. He faces up against Noe from the case study of Vanitas. This was an unfair matchup. When I was doing the bracket, I remember being like, everyone was falling into place based on their number of nominations. And when I saw Noe against Nanami in the first round, I was like, because I really like Noe from Case Study of Vanitas. I love his character a lot. And he is loyal. He so is. But adult of adult Nanami Kento, I mean 75% to 24%. It just, there was no way. No way for Noe. I was like, Nanami's definitely advancing onto the top 32, and rightfully so. So yeah, next up we have an entry into the bracket that I was not expecting. I was super happy to get this entry, which was Kakashi from Naruto. And I was like, hell yeah, versus Toji from Jujutsu Kaisen. And at first, I was a little worried for Kakashi because I was like, oh, cool, we get some Naruto representation. I like Kakashi. He's one of my favorite characters from the series. I have always enjoyed his character and his mentor ways. But I was like, man, I don't know against Toji how this is going to go. And it was one of the closest polls in the entire bracket for the Husbandos. Guys, this came down to like 2 votes. It came down to 2 votes separating Toji from winning over Kakashi, but Kakashi won 51.9% to 48.1%. 2 votes, y'all, separated these two from being tied or one advancing over the other. And honestly, if we're being for real, I think that honestly the scale should have probably tipped more to Kakashi. It's been a long time since I've watched Naruto. I know he's a mysterious character, but based on what I've seen of Kakashi, I would say of loyalty. Now, is that to say that Toji hasn't had some moments where he's been loyal? Absolutely not. Doesn't say that at all. But I think overall, without getting into the series and spoilers and all that, were we voting for Toji because he was a loyal character? Or were we voting for Toji because he had an 8-pack? I'm just saying, I think that the shipper goggles might have been on that one. And that's the tea. So yeah, Kakashi advances on to the top 32. I'm sorry, Toji lovers. I'm sorry. You can all get your body pillows of Toji, hug them close at night tonight. I'm lighting a candle for y'all. I feel for you. But my man Nanami made it to the next round, so it's okay. Next up is just a cruel matchup. Again, when we talked about Nanami versus Noe, as soon as I saw this matchup, I wanted to look at the camera and go, poor Reiner. Guts versus Reiner from Berserk versus Attack on Titan. Man, Guts and Reiner, 2 characters that have suffered a lot in their series. 2 characters that are loyal, but I mean, y'all, if Guts is going to go for you, he's going to go the distance. And as loyal as Reiner can be, and I think Reiner has shown loyalty throughout the series of Attack on Titan, there's been moments of wavering, and I don't know. I did not disagree with this at all. As much as I like Reiner, Guts edging out 54% to 45%, I thought that was a pretty fair assumption. I'm glad Guts made it through. And plus, we've got some Attack on Titan representation already, so getting some Berserk representation, I'm here for it. So yeah, Guts advancing on to the top 32. Now, I'm going to be honest. When we were making the bracket, and I was making the bracket, I'm kind of glad that I did not get to choose the winners of these rounds, because the next round up is Griffith from Berserk versus Gilbert from Violet Evergarden. And I'm not going to lie, when I was looking at that, Guts advanced past Reiner, and you had Griffith versus Gilbert, the temptation to make it to where it was going to be Guts versus Griffith was really there. And I was like, oh no. But you all voted, and Griffith didn't stand a chance. Gilbert got 61% of the vote for being most loyal. I mean, that seems a bit fair. If I was playing the game right, I definitely don't think Griffith would have advanced from this round based on loyalty. But it was so tempting because I'm like, Guts versus Griffith in the next round. How cool would that have been? But that is one of the benefits and silver linings of you all picking the winners, is that you guys didn't realize that. So I think a lot of you just voted based solely on your honest opinions. When I see it all played out on the bracket like this, it's so tempting to try to work it to where it works. It's so tempting to rig it. You just want to. You're like, oh, Guts versus Griffith, but that's why it worked out. And so, Gilbert advances on to the top 32. Next, we have Sheena from Yona of the Dawn versus Chris Takigawa from Ace of the Diamond. Oh man, for one, I am kind of amazed because Suwon and Sheena, of all people, are the only ones that were nominated for Yona of the Dawn. I was sure that Jaeha would be on here. Did not get a nomination this year. It was Sheena. And then, Chris Takigawa, like lots of Ace of the Diamond, lots of Kuroko's basketball nominees this year. I'm feeling for the sports anime, folks. I'll tell you right now, because this was hard to watch. And here's my thing. This one was really hard for me looking at it to try to justify, because you're like, well, Chris and Sheena both have a stable amount of screen time and presence in their series, but they're not like the main characters. So you can't really do like, like with Lan Wangji versus Yuta back a few rounds ago. Lan Wangji is the main character of Modao Zushi. Yuta's a side character. So you obviously have more content with Modao Zushi that you can use to justify your decisions. With Chris and Sheena, they're kind of both side characters, and you're like, you could really go either way and justify it. So it kind of made it harder, but Sheena beat out Chris 58% to 41%, but I'm glad it was close. I'm glad Chris got close, but that was just sad days, y'all. Sad days for Ace of the Diamond this year. Next round. You all are going to say that I rigged this. And I will tell you right now, I did not. This is exactly how the seeding worked. It's how the bracket laid out. You all will say I'm lying, and I will take it to the grave that I'm telling the truth when I say to you that when I was making this bracket, I looked down, saw these two next to each other, and went, are you freaking kidding me? But that's how it worked out. So this next round is Taiga Kagami from Kuroko's Basketball versus Akashi Seijiro from Kuroko's Basketball. And that's just where the cookie crumbled. I was like, holy shit! I'm real glad the category is loyalty. Oh man. I'm sure Patreon had a lot of fun voting in this one because they know how I feel about Akashi. They know how I feel about him. And I was like, come on, Taiga, come on, get him, honey. And then he did 61% to 38%. But I mean, let's be real. Taiga Kagami, to me, of all of the sports anime contenders, he is of top husbando material. It's going to be hard to top. No one really tops Taiga Kagami. He'll top others, but it's very hard to top him unless you're Kuroko or something. So yeah, I'm not complaining at all that Taiga got 61% and advanced over Akashi Seijiro. To the Akashi apologists, maybe next year. Next round, we have Ash Lynx. To the person who nominated King Fritz from Attack on Titan, what's wrong with you? I told Discord, I said, if someone votes that King Fritz is more loyal than Ash Mother Truckin' Lynx, I'm going to pop a gasket. And for a while, it was 100%. And then I'm assuming the person that nominated King Fritz came in and was like, here's my vote. We could have had a shutout. This was the closest to a shutout we had all poll. We could have had a shutout. So thank you. Thank you, voters. All votes count. All votes matter. I'm glad you voted for that piece of garbage over Ash Links. Yeah, sure. Cool. King Fritz was like one of the lowest on the top nominations, surprising no one. So I'm glad that Ash was like, get out of here. Get out of town. Glad that Ash is making it to the top 32. And then we have Kogami from Psycho-Pass. Glad to see some representation for Psycho-Pass. I love that series so much. Kogami is on here versus Kuramochi from Ace the Diamond. Why, Ace the Diamond, did you get matched up with really good competitors? I wanted Ace the Diamond to advance so much. I was rooting for them. And then as soon as I saw the bracket, I was like, well, shit. And here's the thing. This is kind of the thing. And a lot of people are going to argue, Kuramochi, are they more loyal than Kogami? This was another one that I was like, man, you could really make a strong argument for Kuramochi because of just what we see out of him in the series. You can make a really good argument. And the only thing I could think of is, again, kind of like the Suwon argument, or kind of like the argument with Levi versus Chang, or the argument of Sawamura and Rei. You can make the argument, well, Kogami is an adult, so there's more content, there's more experiences he has that shows he's loyal. Kogami does some questionable things in Psycho-Pass. I'm just saying. Kogami does some things that make you question whether he's loyal to the people he makes promises to and then doesn't keep the promises. I'm just saying. I looked at this one and was like, is this really going to be the one round that makes me question everything, or am I just going to let it go? And I had to think long and hard on it. And I finally decided just to let it go. And the only reason I decided was because of who the winner was up in the next round against. And I was like, I don't think they were going to beat that person anyway. So we're not going to let this be the straw that breaks the back. So Kogami got 58%. Kuramochi got 41%. I'm glad Kuramochi got 41 because at least it wasn't a shutout. But my heart goes out to Kuramochi because I personally think he's more loyal than Kogami. But you all voted, so I'm gonna just let it go. That's the way this whole bracket's gonna go, and there's gonna be this isn't even the heartbreaking week. This isn't even Heartbreak Central. That is to come. Let me tell you, that is to come. The bloodbath of the Sweet 16. Let's just say that. But next up, we have Kurusu Kazuki from Buddy Daddy. So happy he got in this. And then Nezumi from number 6. Number 6 is one of the first series I watched on this channel. And I'm so glad that to this day, it still gets like representation on the channel. It still gets people talking about it. It's such a sweet BL. I love number 6 so much. And Nezumi is so good. But honey, you ain't beating out Kazuki. No. As far as loyalty goes, Kazuki is a golden retriever in human form. It is just not possible. 69% to 30% seemed like a pretty safe bet, and I'm not surprised by that at all. So yeah, Kazuki makes it to the top 32. Then, speaking of Trigun Stampede, our boy Vash versus Lloyd Forger from Spy Family. This was a round I was dreading when I put it on the bracket because Vash and Lloyd are like the 2 and 3 seeds of that bracket. And I was like, ooh. Kazuki was a number 1 bracket, by the way. A number 1 seed. Kazuki was. Going into this, Kazuki, Lamonji, Nanami Kinto, and the one that we'll get to here shortly were the 4 1 seeds. And it's not Gojo. Gojo got booted out of the 1 seeds by a Buddy Daddy's character. Get that in your brain. But yeah, so when I saw Lloyd Forger versus Vash, our 2 and 3 seed, I was like, ooh, this is gonna be hard. And I'm gonna be honest, to me, it wasn't close. But I was like, are we gonna vote for the popular hot guy or the winner? And by one vote, Vash the Stampede with 50.6% beat out Lloyd Forger with 49.4%. One vote. And I'm actually glad, not because I don't really care about Spy Family anymore, but because I think that Lloyd in his series, he is loyal as long as it's towards the mission. He's loyal as long as it's towards the mission and saving people, but he deals with a lot of like personal loyalty issues. Whereas Vash will like give you his arm. Vash will literally jump off a bridge for you. Vash will do anything for you without even thinking it because it's the right thing to do. So, and without ulterior motive or keeping up with duty or whatever. And so I think that selflessness in his loyalty should advance him beyond Lloyd. So as much as I like Lloyd, I'm glad that Vash won and advanced to the top 32. Then we have Jean Kirstein versus Reagan Arataka. Again, y'all, one vote. One vote. I was sitting there being like, last year Reagan was like a 1 seed. Reagan was like on force. But I guess since I don't watch Mob Psycho anymore, the Mob fans have filtered out of Patreon and thus the AOT fans have stayed. But I thought this was really close because you could justify Reagan and Jean both being loyal to a fault. And because Jean and Reagan surprisingly have similar personalities in terms of the fact that both Jean and Reagan are kind of like, oh, we're not loyal. We're not doing that. No, we're just in it for ourselves. We're just doing it for the money. And then under that surface, no, they are loyal. They are doing it because they like these people and not for the money or the prestige. They're just putting on a front. So they surprisingly are very similar characters. So I could see why this would be a difficult vote. But for Jean Kirstein, our King Jean, to shut out Reagan Arataka, the Tumblr king of 2022. And Reagan got really far last year in the bracket. And I was like, I was kind of floored that he got shut out in the first round. I was like, oh, okay. Fine, fair game. So one vote, y'all. Don't say your vote doesn't matter because it does. One vote separated the top from the bottom. So there we go. But yeah, so Jean Kirstein is going to advance on to the top 32. Next up, we have Shinai Nozen versus Makoto Edamura. This one was really interesting. I honestly, like, Makoto Edamura is from The Great Pretender, and I like his character a lot. I did not anticipate him getting nominated for a Husbando poll. When he showed up on the bracket as a nomination, I was like, oh, okay, cool. But I did not honestly expect him to be on here. And then Sheen, I'm watching 86 right now, so I figured he'd be on there. He's definitely Husbando material. But as far as loyalty goes, I think both these characters, while they definitely show aspects of loyalty, they also can be kind of mysterious and shady at times. So I was like, I was going to be really curious to see how this vote would go. But Sheen definitely edged out 59% to 40%. And I think rightfully so. I feel like that seems legit. Sheen would put down his life for you and would follow you to the death. Makoto, he'd probably hit and run if it was more advantageous. So sorry, Makoto, but Sheen's going to make it to the next round. Next up, you all should know where this is going by now, but I have to talk about it anyway. Next up, we have Miyuki from Ace the Diamond versus Lu Guang from Link Click. See, Chang in the last bracket, over on the north side, they had the misfortune of being up against Levi Ackerman, who, Juggernaut in Attack on Titan. Miyuki Kazuya, Juggernaut in Ace the Diamond, but Lu Guang, I cannot tell you all why Lu Guang definitely deserves to win this round, because that would be spoilers. But if you've watched Link Click, you very much know why Lu Guang deserves to win this round. And that's really hard to say because I love Miyuki, and I think Miyuki is a very loyal character. He's one of my favorites in Ace of the Diamond. But as soon as this matchup happened and the category was loyalty, I was like, yeah, Miyuki's not going to win this one. So that one, the 68% versus 31%, is justified, but I hate it because I love Miyuki and I wanted somebody from Ace of the Diamond to advance, but not this year. So Lu Guang's going to make it to the top 32. Next we have, speaking of Ace of the Diamond, speaking of polls, Masaki from Sarune versus Sanada Shunpei of Ace of the Diamond. Have I revealed to you what the results of this is? This one was hard because, again, Sonata, a loyal character. Masaki, though, 58 to 41%. I feel like Masaki has a slight advantage too because has a lot more presence in Tsurune, and you get to see a lot more examples of him being loyal. Whereas Sonata, you see examples, but it's not as much. So I definitely think the 41% is justified for Sonata, but Masaki winning it definitely makes sense. So Masaki gets some Tsurune representation, advancing on to the top 32. Next, we have Yuji Itadori, our sweet boy Yuji. I'm so happy he's on here. Speaking of Tsurune versus Fuwa. Now, this one was really, I honestly kind of thought that this one, in all fairness, should have been a lot closer than it was. I thought that Fuwa shows a lot of signs of loyalty throughout season 2 of Tsurune. Fuwa is a main character in season 2 for the opposing team, and he does a lot of things in that season that definitely warrant loyalty and show how dedicated he is to his teammates. And so I honestly thought this should be like a 40-60 sort of poll. But Yuji dominated, like absolutely destroyed this round, 84% to 15%. And I think it's because a lot of people that voted for Yuji have not seen Tsurune. So all of you people out there, if you want to watch a really good sports anime, you should probably be watching Tsurune. Just saying, it's really good. It's really good. It's by KyoAni, so the artwork is amazing. The sound is amazing. You should be watching Tsurune. It's a very good time. Next round, speaking of Jujutsu Kaisen, this one is, oof, what a round. Choso from season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen versus my man Kiyosoma from Fruits Basket. Now, okay, I told you we weren't going to talk about spoilers this early on in the bracket, and we're not going to. But I will say this. This broke my heart a little bit because Kyo is my Fruits Basket favorite character. I would argue Kyo is loyal to the sun goes down, and he would do anything for our girl, Toru. Anything at all. Would argue it to pieces. But then you tell me about Choso and Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2, and I'm not going to reveal spoilers, but I get it. I get why you voted for him. I was like, yeah, that makes sense too. But I do honestly think that this one winning, as much as I love Choso is like one of my favorite characters from season 2 and of the whole series now. As much as I love Choso, I honestly think it's the result of Jujutsu Kaisen just coming off season 2 that let it edge out the win here. I think if less people had been voting on Choso for the hype, I think Kyo would have won this, but that was hard, right? But nah, Choso's going to advance on to the top 32. So now we have our other number 1 seed on the bracket, and it was not Gojo, but rather his lover Geto. It was Geto Suguru versus Fukuzawa for Old Man Yaoi from Bungo Stray Dogs. I love that. Look, here's the thing. Dazai from Bungo Stray Dogs made the Husbando brackets, was nominated several times. Fukuzawa was like the last seed, one of the last seeds that made it onto the bracket. And I was like, that seems fair. That seems legit. There are no other nominees from Bungo Stray Dogs. You mean to tell me that other than Dazai, Chuya, no. Oda, no. Kinji, no. Fitzgerald, no. Lovecraft, no. Mori, no. What? Fukuzawa? Top of Poet? No. Poe? I guess it was like we have Dazai and we have Old Man Yaoi. Those are your options, apparently. I was so floored because I was expecting more Bungo Stray Dogs representation, but for it to be Fukuzawa of all of them, I was like, what? Floored. Well, no, this actually was so much closer than I thought it would be, but Geto obviously edges out 60% to 39%, but I thought that Geto would like by and away floor it. But then again, Fukuzawa is a pretty loyal person, like currently in the story, and Geto, you could justify a lot of things about Geto, but I'm not mad at this result. I'm just very surprised by the matchup. So then we have Gojo, who is our number 2 seed, versus Louis from Moriarty. And oh, my sweet bean. Louis is such a loyal character. He really is. He's so loyal to his brothers. He would do anything for them. I really think the 33% is justified, but the Gojo fangirls and fanboys came out for this one. They were like, no, 66%. My heart and soul tells me that has to be the result. So it's fine. What can we do? So then we have Haiji Kyosei from Run with the Wind versus Johan from Monster. Why? How did Johan get on here? I mean, Johan, very handsome, attractive character, but husbando material? Are we sure on that? I'm so glad Haiji knocked it away with 66% versus 33%. I also love that Run with the Wind is one of the first series I finished on this channel, and Haiji is still a top husbando candidate every year. I'm like, yes. So happy for Haiji. So glad he won this to make to the top 32. Very justified. So yeah. Then we had Haru Kato from The Millionaire Detective versus Askeladd from Vinland Saga. Now, this one, I'm very intrigued and confused on multiple levels. One of the things that confuses me is why Haru Kato? Why not the other one? Why not the millionaire? Why is he the husbando? The power of Miyano Mamoru cannot be underestimated, I guess. I was just like, what? I did not honestly see this coming, so I was like, what a random husbando candidate. Not complaining, but yeah, so him versus Askeladd this was really, really hard. And for a while, Askeladd was actually winning this poll, but some, I guess, late voters of Millionaire fans came back in. You know what? Haru Kato being loyal, absolutely. 100% believe that he's a loyal character, so that makes sense. Askeladd is loyal if it benefits him. So as much as I think overall, here's the problem with categories, right? Because I think overall Askeladd is a much better husbando than Haru, but based on the categories, Haru is clearly the winner. So that makes it rather difficult, right? So 54% to 45%, it was really close, but Haru barely advances out from beyond Askeladd to make it to the top 32. But I'm so sad. I finally get Vinland Saga nominees on the bracket and he's instantly voted out. Sad days. Anyway, next up we have, speaking of out of the bracket as soon as you get them in, we have Thorfinn from Vinland Saga versus Rayo from Blue Lock. Oh my God. So, this one was really close. This was a two vote separating. There were 2 votes separating Rayo from advancing past Thorfinn for this one. This is the problem, right? So Thorfinn and Rayo, here's your deal. What you have to do is, looking at Rayo is a super loyal character, like loyal to a yandere fault, right? You have to look at Thorfinn from the perspective of season 2. I'm not going to go into details as to why, but if you've only seen season 1 of Vinland Saga and you saw this matchup, you'd be like, Thorfinn, loyal? But you have to watch season 2. That's all I will say. And the only thing I can say that to me justifies Thorfinn beating Rayo, as close as it was, is that Rayo's loyalty, you could maybe argue, is founded in kind of his misguided feelings towards that character. And that's going to sound weird. I'm trying to be as generic as possible and not get into spoilers. But with Thorfinn, his loyalty is kind of more on a selfless level. It's more on a pure level that's innocent, whereas Rayo's is maybe not quite as much. And I know every Blue Lock fan is like chatting and commenting right now about how I'm wrong. You all voted. The 2 people that voted for Thorfinn, you can get mad at them. So... But yeah, I'm definitely okay with Thorfinn winning this round, but it sucks because Rayo is a really good character and would be amazing on this bracket, and we have to say goodbye to him so soon. The first round, it is tough. It is a tough go-round, let me tell you. So next, this was the other round that I was like, do I need to step in or not? Do I need to step in or just let y'all pick? Because Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Himuro from Kuroko's Basketball. Loyalty, huh? Really? And you know what? I'm sure that the Sukuna fanboys or fangirls would say, well, but Himuro, him and Taiga made a promise and he didn't want to end up keeping the promise and blah, blah, blah. And then the Kuroko's Basketball people would say, Sukuna is a genocidal maniac. 53 to 46%. It was really, really close. And again, I felt like I was turning to the same thing that I was turning to with Kogami and Kuromochi. I'm like, do I really die on this hill? Do I really change the game because of Himuro? And I decided to let it go. I was like, welp, we're just going to let it go and see what we get. So you Sukuna fandom, you get a free one. You get a freebie this time. Himuro, I'm sorry. You can go hang out with Murasaki Bara, but Sukuna is going to make it to the top 32 of Husbandos. Damn his abs. And then we have Sasaki from Sasaki Miyano versus Grimmer from Monster. You know, a lot of you are going to be like, "Oh, Romania, this person got to go on," and you're not going to challenge it because you don't, you really like that other character, so you're just going to let him go by. Well, I let this go by. I can't talk about Grimmer because it's an amazing spoiler for Monster, but I freaking love Grimmer. He's one of my favorite characters in that series. And as much as I love Sasaki, I was like, let Grimmer win. But that's not how this went down at all. Instead, Sasaki definitely beat Grimmer. And you know what? The saddest part about it is I love Grimmer so much as a character, but I cannot justify him beating Sasaki in terms of loyalty. I just can't. It was 68 to 31%. I can't justify it. Sasaki is definitely the more loyal of the two in terms of the whole context of the series as a whole from what I've seen. I hate it. So, Grimmer, I hope you get to be a nominee next year because I'd love for you to go further than this. But Sasaki advances top 32. My heart is crushed, y'all. Crushed. And then our final husbando nominee was Pei Ming from Heaven Official's Blessing versus Armin from Attack on Titan. The phrase is, these hoes ain't loyal, and apparently y'all don't think Pei Ming is either. 59 to 40%. Oof. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing. Pei Ming is a love him and leave him type. Armin's going to the depths of hell with you. So I definitely think Armin deserved the win on this one. But I really, again, Pei Ming is kind of like Asklad. They're both such great all-around husbando nominees. And for them not to advance, it is almost criminal. But that's because we have so many good husbandos on this poll bracket this year. It's a bloodbath, y'all. It's just everybody's going to lose favorites in every round, and it's going to hurt. So hope y'all are ready. So that's husbandos. And now we have the waifus to kind of go the other way as well. So starting off our round, we had one of our number one seeds, which I'm super happy about. Anna/Nina from Monster, and then Grell from Black Butler. Grell getting on the waifu bracket is amazing to me. I'm so excited. I was so happy to see Grell. Grell's one of my favorite from Black Butler. I love Grell's character. They're such a diva. But them against Anna in terms of loyalty, Anna was the clear win of this one. But it was 47 to 52%. It was really close. I think a lot of people are nostalgic about Black Butler, and a lot of people have not seen Monster, and that led it to being so close. But I thought this was definitely Anna's round to win, but I am glad that Grell not only got recognition on the bracket, but did as well as they did. So who knows? Maybe they'll come back next year, but Anna's making it to the top 32. Then we had a couple characters on here that were we had a couple that were nominated both on the waifu bracket as well as the husbando bracket. And normally I'm not crazy about that, but this year I let it go because I was like, well, we'll see how far that they go now that they've been nominated. And so the first of those that were on both would be Ghetto from Jujutsu Kaisen versus, I'll get this right here, versus Millie Thompson from Trigun. I love Millie Thompson. She's one of my favorites. And so it was really, really sad to see them go up against Ghetto because, as you may guess, Millie lost 47% to 52%. It was really close. And again, I honestly think if there had been less Jujutsu Kaisen fans voting just for Ghetto because it was Ghetto, Millie is so loyal. She is just freaking, just would drop anything to help you. She is like the epitome of loyalty. So the fact that she lost to Ghetto, it was, again, I was like, do I question it? And that's one of those things. It's like, I told the mods that I'd have like 3 saves that I could use throughout the entire competition, but I was already planning to use my 3rd save here for Millie. So I'm like, no. So I hate it for Millie. I think she should have won this category. She should have knocked Ghetto out from the beginning, but go watch Trigun and prove me wrong. But whatever, Ghetto's going to make it with 52% to the top 32 of the waifus. Now, I am really, really happy that this character from Death Parade made it to the bracket. However, their name is a spoiler. So if you've not seen Death Parade and you would like to see Death Parade, I don't know if I would look at this particular bracket. So you might just skip ahead, but if you don't care, then that's fine. But it is Mei from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Chiyuki from Death Parade. I really thought this was a good matchup. I really liked the idea of Mei versus Chiyuki. I thought it was really close. It was 42% to 57%, but having seen all of Death Parade, Chiyuki definitely deserved the win. If you've seen all of season 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen, you very much know why Chiyuki deserved the win. So I thought that Chiyuki easily should have won this, but Mei getting 42%, I think it is a testament to Chiyuki because it speaks about how good her character is, that she beat out like a powerhouse like Mei in terms of loyalty. So in any case, she's going to advance on to the top 32. Then we have, speaking of Jujutsu Kaisen, we have Shoko Iiri from Jujutsu Kaisen, but they're up against Violet Evergarden. I mean, y'all. Violet Evergarden is one of my favorite waifu nominees, and I mean, it was gonna be a close round maybe, but I thought Violet really was the one to win this one. And I think it's only because we don't know a lot about Shoko yet. I think we're still learning about Shoko in terms of Jujutsu Kaisen, so I definitely understood why Violet won. And it was a pretty big shutout. It was 63% to 36%. But I'm glad Shoko got represented. Good for her. Next up, this matchup, the most tragic. I love Jean from Case Study of Vanitas, and I was so excited that they got nominated to the waifus. I was like, oh, cool. They've been nominated. That's so exciting. And then I saw that they were up against Hanji. And Hanji Zoe is just a powerhouse character. Hanji is just an amazing character. They are so much fun. They have so many waifu qualities. And honestly, this was the thing. It tied. Jean and Hanji, as far as being loyal, tied. And I'm like, as it should. Hanji and Jean are both such loyal characters. Of course they would tie. So what ended up having to happen is that we had to take it to our philanthropy tier over on Patreon. And the philanthropy tier, one of the things they get to do is break poll ties. And so they got to vote for which one they thought should win of the two. And they voted for Hanji Zoe. So yeah, it was so frustrating. I was like, I would have been happy either way. As much as I love Hanji, I love Jean just equally as much. So I was like, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. We'll just put the fate in the philanthropy tier's hands, and they voted for Hanji. So I'm sorry, girl. Noe and John, I'm so sorry. Hopefully you guys will get nominated next year, but we're going to have Hanji go to the top 32. Speaking of which, I think mainly it's because Blue Lock is a new series, and people just haven't had time to experience it yet. But I felt bad because Henri is such a great character, and she is so loyal. She is a super loyal character. She puts up with Ego, who is not worthy of her. But Toru Honda from Fruits Basket, the main character, I mean, it's hard to beat that. It's really hard to beat Toru. Like, she shut it out 73% to 27%. I don't think there was even a chance for Henri. And I think that's because people just know Toru's character in Fruits Basket and how amazing she is. So that was really hard to watch. But Henri, I hope you make it next year into the bracket or into the nominations, because you definitely deserve to be there. Next, we have Yuki Tsukumo. Yuki, which is from Jujutsu Kaisen. We had a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen waifu nominations. A lot, which is great. I'm all up for it. But we had Yuki versus Irene Adler. Now, okay, here's my thing. I did have to make a correction in the Discord. When I made this poll, I put Yuki, and I was confusing Yuki for a character from Ace of the Diamond. So it should have said Jujutsu Kaisen. Did I accidentally rig the poll for Irene to win? I don't know. I feel like if you knew Yuki enough and you cared about her character, you would know that that name's from Jujutsu Kaisen and not Ace of the Diamond anyway. So also, Yuki is really mysterious in Jujutsu Kaisen where we're at. So I feel like Irene was a much safer choice for loyalty. And Irene's a loyal character. So I feel like it's a justified win, 57% to 42. I'll take it. Irene Adler's going to advance on to the top 23. Then we have, from Chainsaw Man, we have Power, and which is a good waifu choice. I like that. And we also have an old favorite for the last 2 years, has come back time and time again, and that is Zhang Yanli from Modao Zushi. Now, I mean, I really, really like Zhang Yanli. Like, Yanli is like mother of all mothers. So it is not a surprise to me at all that she won 64% to 35%. I mean, Power is a great waifu, don't get me wrong, but loyalty? Would we call Power loyal? Really? I don't know. I definitely, here's my thing. You can call Power loyal. Sure. But more loyal than Zhang Yanli? No. Not even close. No, sorry. And that's just Modao Zushi, but she is literally, Yanli is like one of the most loyal sisters, thick and thin, blood and water that you'll ever meet. And there's no way Power is going to be considered more loyal than her. So really glad that Yanli beat the hype and made it to the top 32. This next character that I'm going to talk about is one that I can't really talk about without a spoiler. So for Heaven Official's Blessing, so if you are a Donghua only for Heaven Official's Blessing, or you do not want novel spoilers, I would skip this one because it was really close. And it's Casca from Berserk versus Yushi Huang from Heaven Official's Blessing. Oof. This one was really hard, and it was literally one vote that separated Casca from Yushi, which I'm kind of sad about. I would have liked Casca to have gone further, especially after watching the anime, but I definitely see why Yushi won. Without getting into too many spoilers, her character is really loyal, pragmatic, and very steadfast, and I appreciate her being chosen as the winner of this round by one vote. So it was really close. I honestly was going to be happy either way because I like both of these characters. So Patreon, good on you for this choice, but Yushi's going to advance on to the next round. Then we have Maki Zenin. Again, so many Jujutsu Kaisen girls. Maki Zenin versus Meryl Strife from Trigun. Oh, Meryl versus Maki is such a matchup. And girl, I love my homegirl Meryl. She is so great. And she's super loyal, but Maki just kind of blew it out of the water. 65 to 34%. I feel like Maki and Meryl are both loyal characters. So at this point, it comes down to who is the most loyal. And I would agree with Maki winning this one. It's really hard because I love Meryl so much. Totally recommend her in Trigun, but yep, I'm going to have to be Maki to the top 32. Another character that made it into the waifu bracket that was also in the husbando bracket was Suwon from Yona of the Dawn and Makima from Chainsaw Man. Now, guys, I know why you put Makima in the waifu bracket. I know. But let's be real. would we really want Makima as our waifu? Do you want her as your partner? Because I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, well, she would protect me. She's hot, all this. I'm like, she also would like go praying mantis style on you and bite your head off. No, like, no. But I didn't say anything. I was like, we'll just let the voting go. And it got really close. And I was like, ah. But one vote is all it takes. And one vote separated Makima from Suwon, with Suwon edging out 50.8% to Makima's 49.2%. This was like a test. I was like, if Makima makes it out based on loyalty, I'm not going to know how to feel about that if y'all are just voting because you like her and you want to see her advance, or if you're being true to the category. But I feel like Suwon helped pass the test. So good on you, Suwon. Thanks for getting to the next round, the top 32. You didn't make it out of your husbando round, but you made it out of this one, and that's all that matters. So yeah, Suwon makes it to the top 32. Then we have Akane, which I'm so excited to see Akane on here. Akane from Psycho Pass versus Seo from Sarune. And I think this is a pretty easy win for Akane, 72% to 27%. I feel like Akane has so much more screen time and presence in Psycho Pass than Seo has at all in Sarune. So it was really, I think, an easy choice for Akane to win this one. But glad Seo got some votes. Glad she got some press, some love from the Patreon. So that was good. Then we have Rei Takishima versus Peak Finger. Whew. Another round that I was really dreading. Look, I love Rei and I love Peak. Rei is like my favorite female character from Ace of the Diamond. She's the manager. She's a badass. She's awesome. She's kind of like if Akane from Psycho Pass and Henri from Blue Lock combined together and formed Rei. I love her. I love her to pieces. And then I like Peak. So it's like a question of loyalty. I really think in this series, it came down to just personal preference. Because I think that both Peak and Rei are side characters. We definitely get more instances with Peak's character than we do with Rei. There's definitely a lot done more with Peak's character to show her loyalty than there is with Rei. Do I think Rei from Ace of the Diamond is as loyal as Peak? Yeah. Do I think that we have more examples of Peak being loyal than we do of Rei? Yeah. So in that case, it was 57 to 42%, but I think it was very, very close, and you could have justified it either way. So, but yeah, so Peak is going to advance on the top 32. Then we had another matchup with Attack on Titan royalty. We had Historia Reese from Attack on Titan versus Takako, and I was like, what a random happenstance of having these characters go together, right? Again, Takako. So then we have Takako from Ace of the Diamond versus another Attack on Titan, Historia Reese. I swear, I did not. I swear, when we were doing the nominations, was it my intent to have Attack on Titan versus Ace of the Diamond characters? No, it was not. It's just the way they fell. I swear, it was fate. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was making the bracket going, well, shit. Two Attack on Titan versus two Ace of the Diamond characters. Why? Because they're such different series. One's a sports anime and one's this like heavy drama, like fantasy. But I do think that Takako, even though she's a great waifu candidate, I like her a lot. Historia is definitely the better character. There's more with her. There's more examples of her loyalty. I mean, it was not nearly as close as Peak versus Rei. 75% to 24%. It was like no question. So yeah, Historia advancing on to the top 32. Then we have, again, get some old school categories, right? I was so excited to see some old school representation. On the bracket, we had Cece from Code Geass, exciting times, versus Orihime from Bleach. I was so excited by this. Now, again, y'all want to talk about how Romania's choices aren't the ones that win. I would have picked Orihime for this in a heartbeat. Sorry about ya. Orihime, loyalty. She says Kurosaki-kun every 5 seconds. How is she not winning the loyalty category? She literally like bends over backwards for everyone around her and is like the most loyal character in the show. And you all picked Cece? I don't mind Cece, but I was like, oh, come on now. I thought Orihime had this in the bag. And for a while, Orihime was winning the poll. And then CC fans came out of nowhere and skyrocketed her to 59% to 40%. But I was just like, really? If it had been up to me, Orihime would have won this. But it's been a long time since I've seen Code Geass. So maybe y'all are remembering things that I'm not. And you have justification in the comments down below. But I thought Orihime should have won this challenge. But whatever. CC is going to keep Code Geass alive and advance on to the next round. This was not a great bracket for Neon Genesis Evangelion. It was and it wasn't. For some rounds, it was really good. For other rounds, it was like, oof. And this next round was one of the oofs. We had Miwa Kasumi from Jujutsu Kaisen. Again, Jujutsu waifus are aplenty. We had them versus Asuka Langley from Neon Genesis. Now, here's the thing. I love Asuka. Love her to pieces. Am I going to say Asuka is more loyal as a character than Miwa? You could probably argue that Asuka is an all-around better waifu, but that's subjective. I definitely think for this category, she just got paired up with somebody who's an incredibly loyal character that would do anything for her companions, and that's Miwa. And plus, Miwa is less of a tsundere. Miwa's not a tsundere at all. Asuka's a tsundere. So Asuka makes it kind of difficult to understand if she's really being meaningful with her supporting characters or not. Whereas Miwa is like so hard on your sleeve, you know she's supportive, that I think it's easier for people to vote for her because of that. Like if she says she's loyal, you believe it. If Asuka says she's loyal, you're like, well, but on what day? So as much as I love our redhead, blue is going to win out over red today. And Miwa Kasumi gets 62% of the vote over 37 to advance to the top 32. Now, over on the other side here, our other number one seed, interestingly enough, was Masato Katsuragi. Speaking of Neon Genesis, Masato Katsuragi was up against Wen Qing, one of our wonderful characters from Odazushi who has been on this bracket before. So has Masato. And yeah, they tied. So that was fun. Super glad that we had Masato and Wen tie. So I had to go over to the philanthropy tier over on Patreon, and they ended up voting for Masato to advance. And I think that's the fair choice. I like Wen Qing a lot. I won't debate her loyalty, but Masato I think has a little bit more screen time to kind of back up her loyalty as a character. So I think that was the right decision in the long run, as much as I like Wen Qing. So Masato is going to advance to our top 32. Then I'm glad the waifu poll had some representation of the Great Pretender, because it sure did. We had Abigail Jones from Great Pretender versus Vladilena Melise from 86. What a nice matchup. I thought this was a lot of fun. I liked Abby's character getting, making it to this poll. And honestly, Vladilena getting 53% and Abigail Jones getting 46% was a lot closer than what I expected. Because, Lena to me in 86 is a hardcore loyal character. Like, she is like gonna go tooth and nail fight to the death for you, kind of like Sheen, and being loyal. And Abigail's kind of a cut and run character to me. So I was like, loyalty? Her? I was like, she says it. Spoilers. Mild spoilers. In the first episode, she says that they're not loyal to anyone. They'll just cut and run if they need to. I was like, she should not have won this category. So I was astonished that it got as close as it did. But I am glad that Lena pulled out the win to make it to the top 32. Whew, okay. Then next up, we have Riza Hawkeye from Full Metal Alchemist. Get it, girl. Versus Shiano from Seraph of the End. What a random, the only Seraph of the End nomination, no Husbandos, no Gurren. Super surprised by that, but Shiano makes it. Okay. Shiano versus Riza, no question. Loyalty, Riza Hawkeye, 79%. She just kind of blew her out of the water, which Riza is like a loyal dog for sure, for sure. So that I think that win was justified. Then we had a Yasano from Bungo Stray Dogs versus Yonghee from Yona of the Dawn. Super excited to get some Yona representation, excited to get more Bungo Stray Dogs representation. That was really nice, but I mean, Yosano kind of took Yonghee out of the water here, 63% to 36%. And again, Yonghee is not, I love Yonghee as a character in Yona of the Dawn. I really do. But I think Yosano definitely has more content to kind of back up that decision. Another matchup that I was really dreading because I was like, oof, this is going to be hard, was Shi Qingshong from Heaven Official's Blessing and Winry Rockbell from Full Metal Alchemist. You could argue that both nominees are loyal to a fault, and you could probably find enough content to justify it. So now that I've finished the Heaven Official's Blessing novel, I would say that this was a really hard matchup, and I think it comes down to personal preference because you could find examples from both characters of them being super loyal. I honestly thought that the Windmaster should have gotten ahead. Personally, I would have picked them over Winry. As much as I like Winry, I think there was more content with the Windmaster, but you could definitely make the argument for Winry and make a strong case for her. So I can't really argue that. And because of that, the 60 to 40, it seemed justified. Winry Rockbell, she advances on to the top 32. This next nominee was one I had not expected at all to ever see on the bracket. And so I was really pleasantly surprised. But it was Sakura Chio from Nozaki-kun versus Himeno from Chainsaw Man. And I was like, what? Oh, and the thing that got me even more was that she won by one vote. Sakura won the loyalty category, 50% to 49%. Now, here's the thing. I've only seen season 1 of Chainsaw Man, so I am presuming that maybe the people that voted for Himeno, well, I'm thinking of someone else other than Himeno. Himeno being loyal, yeah, I could see that, definitely. I think Sakura, the only thing I can think of is Sakura literally puts up with a guy that won't tell her his feelings and does it on the daily and still suffers through it because she's that loyal. I think maybe that edged her out, but one vote, y'all, for Chio. Bold, Cotton. But I don't have anything else to say to this. I'm sure you all will comment down below with your novels about Himeno. But I thought that Sakura deserved to win this one personally, and so the win by one vote, I thought that was pretty neat. Then we have Momoy from Kroko's Basketball versus Robin from One Piece. I'm really glad that Robin made it on the bracket this year. Robin's one of my favorites from One Piece, and I think she's like a beautiful waifu candidate. So she edged out over Momoy 57 to 42%. I think that Robin is super loyal. I think that there's no question to Robin, especially towards the Straw Hat crew. I think she's a super loyal character, fighting tooth and nail for them. Momoy is loyal, but she's not afraid to like use stuff against you. like during the basketball games, she's like, oh, I'll use this data against you. And that's just how she is. So I think Robin winning was pretty fair at 57%, so she's going to advance on to the top 32. Then we had another character from Code Geass, Callan Stotfield from Code Geass versus Shinobu from Demon Slayer. Ooh, this one, ooh. I feel it's been a long time since I've seen Code Geass, so I would have to go back and rewatch, but I feel like these two might have been a little more even keel than what the survey and poll ended up being. It ended up being 60% to 39%. I thought it should be a little closer than that, personally, but I feel like there's maybe more Demon Slayer fans that voted Shinobu, but I'm not going to argue it. I feel like it could have gone either way, and I would have been satisfied, so Shinobu's going to advance on to the top 32. Then we have Mikasa. Ackerman was one of our top 1 seeds. Go, Mikasa. Versus Yaruichi from Bleach. Oh my gosh. And what an opening round. You open up with Yaruichi versus Mikasa. Are you joking? I was like, oh shit. Well, here we go. This one was pretty hard because Yaruichi is a very loyal character. I love Yaruichi. She's one of my favorites from Bleach. She's a classic waifu candidate, and I think that she's extremely loyal. But Mikasa, you gonna beat Mikasa in terms of loyalty? That's really hard. And I think that, I honestly think that Mikasa puts up a really good fight against Yaruichi and proved herself throughout this poll, because you all agreed it was overwhelmingly 76% to 23%. I think because Bleach spoilers, I think because Yaruichi deflected from her family and kind of went rogue, it questions that loyalty a little bit, whereas Mikasa's like hardcore, I'm gonna die for you every second of her life. That catapults her to win this one and get in the top 32. Then we had Yor from Spy Family versus Ling Wen from Heaven Official's Blessing. This one wasn't even a contest. It was Yor. And honestly, justified. I like Yor a lot from Spy Family, and I like Ling Wen in Heaven Official's Blessing, but in terms of being a loyal person, Yor is definitely the clear winner of this. And so I'm sure there's some things you could argue that are spoilery about Ling Wen and her character, but there's a good counter to that too, so we can comment down below about it. But definitely Yor winning 75%, justified. They're making it to the top 32. Then we have Reo was another character who was both in the husbando bracket as well as the waifu bracket from Blue Lock. Super excited for Reo. And then we had, I can't believe y'all nominated this one, Jessica Randy from Banana Fish. All right, AG's not going to be a waifu, but Jessica, okay. I was like, all right, get you some Banana Fish. Let's get this waifu up in here. I do love Jessica. She's beautiful. I honestly feel this was another example of maybe people haven't seen Blue Lock, but I don't know. See, here's my thing. This one was questionable. If it had been me, I would have picked Reo over Jessica. Jessica eased out 54% to 46%. If it had been me, I would have definitely picked Reo, because Jessica, yeah, she's loyal and she sticks by, the side of certain characters, but she divorced her husband. Is she really that loyal? Someone had to say it. Both of them have had breakups, but I guess it all works out for her character in the end. That's all I'll say. But I was just like, I think you could have picked Reo and it would have been a fine decision. So I know the Blue Lock fans in the Discord were devastated that Reo did not advance in either the waifu or the husbando for this year. But don't worry, next year I'm sure there will be a category that Reo can shine in and y'all can nominate them and we'll have it'll all be good. So, So Jessica Randy, dark horse of the bracket to make it in, is going to advance to the top 32. Now, this next category was really weird for me. In the words of Jessica Wilde, that was weird for me. And this is going to be, again, this is a little bit of an Attack on Titan spoiler, this character's name. So if you've not watched Attack on Titan, you might avoid this one. But this was one of the ones that won by one vote. And honestly, the waifu bracket gave me a lot more trouble than the husbando ones in terms of justifying. I was just like, ugh. So it was Ymir Fritz from Attack on Titan versus Chao Ling from Link Click. Again, glad Link Click's getting some representation. Good on you, Link Click. Ymir Fritz, really? We didn't nominate Freckled Ymir, but we nominated her? Really? If this had been Ymir, like Freckled Ymir, totally justifiable. Instantly. But I'm like, Ymir Fritz, yes. Loyal to a fault. Yes. But Chao Ling's really loyal too. I don't know. I also feel really weird because I had to find a picture of Ymir Fritz in her adult form. I think most people think of her in her child form, and so having her as a waifu candidate is weird to me. That was weird for me. So I'm like, but she won by one vote, so I guess we have to advance her. But this is another one I was like, okay, but I honestly think Chao Ling would have been the better choice, but I'm not the one voting this year, so we'll see how Ymir Fritz does in the top 32. Next, we have Annie from Attack on Titan. We had a lot of Attack on Titan, a lot of Jujutsu Kaisen waifu and husbando nominees, especially in the waifus. Lots of Attack on Titan, lots of Jujutsu Kaisen. But Annie versus Misa Amane. Oh, I'm so glad Misa made it to the waifu bracket. So glad. And I mean, guys, look, in terms of loyalty, we can say whatever we want about Annie. I like Annie as a character. You ain't beating Misa. Misa, as far as her loyalty goes, no, 64% to 35%. Misa Amane, she is going to kill for you. Don't worry. If she likes you, she is yandere, and I am here for it. I love Misa's character. She's one of my, I wear a sweater with her face on it for reactions. I love Misa. And I think that her win is, as much as I like Annie, is justified. So Misa is going to go on to the top 32. Next, we have Nobara from Jujutsu Kaisen versus Lily from Yona of the Dawn. I like Lily as a character. She's great. She's loyal. But you know what? She just doesn't really talk about how many seats she has at the table. And that's what Nobara does. Nobara, like, slam dunked this round, 73% of the vote. And I think it's justified. I think that a lot of Attack on Titan and Jujutsu Kaisen characters can get hyped sometimes, but I think in terms of loyalty, I think Nobara definitely earns her place here, because even despite her character, she's loyal to her friends. She doesn't have a lot of friends she's loyal to, but the ones she is loyal to, solid. Absolutely solid. So she advances on to the top 32. Then we have Kari from Digimon. I'm so excited that Kari from Digimon, like, I would have preferred Mimi or Sora, but Kari from Digimon making this bracket against Haruhi from Ouran High School Host Club. What a very random matchup, right? Which I like Haruhi and I like Kari a lot. They're very both old school candidates. Really super cool to compare to one another. But man, Haruhi just dominated. 82%. I think other than Ashlinks versus King Fritz, which was pretty set in stone, I think this was like the most like dominating bracket for Haruhi, which I feel bad. Kari's a loyal character. I love Kari from Digimon, but Haruhi, girl, definitely loyal. I am so glad for Haruhi advancing onto the top 32. And then our final bracket of the waifu top 64 was Maka Evans from Soul Eater versus Euphemia from Code Geass. This one was actually closer than I thought. It was 43% to 56%, but I definitely would pull for Maka to win as far as being most loyal. I think Maka, her and relationship with Soul and everything, I think that proves her loyalty really well. Her relationship with her friends, even her dad. I think that Maka deserved the win on this one. But don't worry, Code Geass, Cece made it through, so you still got somebody in there. But good on Maka for Soul Eater for making it through there. So yeah, so that, y'all, is the top 64. Narrowed down to the top 32. And if I'm being honest with y'all, the category of loyalty was the easiest one. From here on out, it's gonna get a lot bloodier. So drink up, friends. So I'm very curious to hear your thoughts down below of the top 64 that has been narrowed down to the top 32. Did you think that any of them unjustly were booted from the competition? Do you agree with the decisions that Patreon made? Do you want to scorn them repeatedly for their decisions? We'll see. Pressure's on y'all now. So I'm excited to hear your comments down below and to chime in with my own thoughts. So I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and next week we're going to take the top 32 and narrow down to the top 16, the sweet 16, if you will. And sweet it shall be. I'll see y'all then. Bye.